Hello and welcome to Gapeys Garden. Today we are in a new location. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you may have seen that we have some new property to play with. So we still have our old property, but we've now got an acre with a lot of fruit trees on it, and I thought I'd give you a little tour. I am wearing a jacket today because it has been kind of chilly here, and it's been raining off and on all day, and actually for the last week. So we're finally starting to get some warmer temperatures starting hopefully this afternoon. But anyway, I wanted to take you on a tour. These trees are very old and they are in pretty bad need of pruning. They probably haven't been pruned in at least 20 years or so, but they're probably at least 40 years old. So let's take a look and see what we have. We're getting a lot of apple drop on a lot of the trees because they're probably just overgrown with apples and they just can't support this many. We have collected quite a few of the fallen apples and have donated them to someone that has a lot of animals that could use these. So this is just around one or two of the apple trees here, and we have no idea what varieties any of these are, but you could see the trunk here on this one is rather large and it is a huge tree. Well, let's take a closer, or actually a further back look so you can see just how big this tree is. And also, here's a look at one of the apples. So it's kind of a yellowish color with a fair amount of red on it. Let's take a look here. So there is a wide angle shot of this tree. That's just one tree right there. And then we've got another tree right next to it that is definitely a different variety. This one has a really deep, almost maroon colored apple. So look how dark those apples are. But these ones, I think both of these trees aren't quite ripe yet, but these ones are much smaller than the other tree. I'm not sure if they will get a lot bigger or not, but this tree is also pretty massive. I mean, I don't even know how many feet high that is. Maybe 20, I don't know, 20 feet. But it's kind of sprawling around over here as well. Really nice looking apples though. And we've also got lots of blackberries that are growing on this property as well. And then probably the most prolific weed, aside from the blackberries, is this prickly cucumber. And I think I've found that I may be allergic to it because I was trying to pull some of this out of the bushes the other day and it left some marks, kind of looks like burn marks on my hands. So I'm only going to be touching this with gloves from now on, but this stuff is growing all over the place. Luckily, it's pretty easy to pull out of the bushes. But yeah, we've got a lot of that to tackle at this property. Now this apple tree is leaning pretty badly, as you can see, and it is covered with moss. And this is one, I think we actually do know the variety of this one. This is a summer apple, and I think it's called yellow transparent or something transparent, but it ripens a lot earlier and gets a lot bigger. This is one of the apples here, and I think this one is pretty much done producing, but it's a very mushy variety of apple. I have a neighbor that's got one of these as well, but it's pretty much done for the season. I don't think there's any more left on this tree. I think they've all fallen already. We did harvest a few of these, but I think one of them made it into my jam that I made with the plums, but this is another one that's pretty massive. We have another apple here that is not in very good shape. We might end up having to take this one out. It is totally full of moss and most of the branches are full of moss, and there isn't really very many apples on this tree. I only saw a couple apples way up there, but it's probably the smallest of the apple trees because it's kind of sandwiched in between two other apple trees. So not a very good looking apple here. You can see a lot of the branches are just filled with moss and doesn't even have any leaves on this whole branch here. But if we keep going back here, there's another very large apple that is leaning way over the fence, and we need to do something about this because it's actually starting to bend the fence here. So it's leaning up against the fence, and you can see it bending this bar here. But we'll get a better look at this apple tree on the other side where all the fruit is. But this side is pretty much shaded and doesn't really have any fruit. So we'll take a look at the apples from the other side. All right, we're on the other side of the fence now, and these are some really nice looking apples. They're pretty much completely green. There's a little bit of red on some of the apples, but for the most part, these are green. I'm not seeing a lot of damage on these, which is nice, because I'm sure the previous owners didn't do any spraying. This one here has a little bit more of a reddish blush on it. But yeah, this one has really nice apples. So we should be making lots and lots of applesauce and apple pies and who knows what else. But yeah, this one, look at all those apples up there. It is just loaded with apples. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do with all these. Over on this side of the property, we've got 1 apple and 2 pears. And this is another apple that is ginormous. The apples on this side of the tree are looking pretty good. There's a little bit of scabbing on some of the apples, and they're probably have a little ways to go before they're ripe. But again, they're just totally loaded. They look a little bit similar to the previous variety, but I don't know, they might have a little bit more red color on them. You can see this branch is pretty much touching the ground from the weight of all these apples. So yeah, we need to do some work to get these apples in better shape. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do with all these apples. Here's a look at the 2 pears. They are different varieties, but again, I have no idea what varieties they are. This one here is basically a green kind of apple. Some of them are not in very good shape, like this one here, but most of them don't look too bad. But it would be really nice to know what kind of pears these are. These ones here have a lot of damage from some kind of a pest. But yeah, looks like we're gonna have a lot of pears to deal with as well. And then this pear tree it's got one branch that's going way high up there, but it's pretty loaded with pears as well. This one is a very unique one though. The skin on this one is really, it kind of looks like a Bosque pear. So I'm not sure if that's what it is, or if there's other varieties that have this really dark tan color. If you know what that might be, let me know. But I couldn't find any other varieties that were that dark colored of skin. But this one is pretty big, and lots of the fruit is way up there, so we're gonna need a really big ladder to get to some of those fruits. Over by the first set of apples we were looking at is a plum tree. So this one is just about done producing. We've had a lot of rain in the last week, so a lot of the fruit that was about ready is pretty much all soft and squishy and really not very worth harvesting at this point. A lot of them have dropped, and it's I think it might be a Shiro plum. It's either that or maybe, I think it's called egg drop or something like that. But they're they're not quite round, but they are kind of, I don't know, egg-shaped, I guess. So it would be nice to know what variety that is as well. But a lot of people think they're Shiro, but some people say they're not round enough to be Shiro. And this plum tree is actually growing over into this apple tree over here. You might be able to see, oh, we've got some plums you can see here. So they are very, very watery. So they'd still be good for animals probably, but I don't know if I would use those for anything. I've made so much plum jam. I don't know that I'll need any more for a few years. So I think next year we might try making some melomel, which is a plum mead with some of the plums, because this thing produces like crazy. The only other fruit tree we've got over here is this massive cherry tree. So this is a sweet cherry tree, and they said that the birds eat all of the cherries. So they really do not get any because of the birds, and I don't see any way to protect this massive tree from the birds. So we are probably going to get rid of this tree, unfortunately, and it is growing really close to this building over here, and we're a little worried that it might eventually lean over and fall onto it. So I think the best course of action is to just cut it down. I know it's probably hard to tell, but this property also comes with 4 raised beds, which the previous owners were not gardeners, which they admitted, and the 4 raised beds I don't think were ever used by them. So they are overgrown with a lot of blackberries and other invasive weeds. So we've got a little work to do to get those cleaned up. But yeah, so that's where the 4 raised beds are right here. And it's nice that there is also a water spigot around here someplace. I thought I saw one, but I don't know where it went. Buried under these weeds, I guess. I hope you enjoyed the quick tour of the new property. If you have any suggestions on things to do with massive amounts of apples, please let me know. And if you have any ideas of what some of these varieties might be, I'd be curious to know that too. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.